All right, let's get right to it. The big question on everyone's mind. What can a Python developer actually earn in India in 2025? We've dug into all the data to give you the real story. The salaries, the skills that get you paid, and what's coming next for Python careers. Let's dive in.
So before we even talk numbers, you got to understand why this is all happening. And this quote from Michael Kennedy, the founder of Talk Python, really hits the nail on the head. We're in the middle of a huge shift. Python isn't just for building websites anymore. It's the brain behind the entire AI and data explosion.
And the numbers totally back this up. Think about this. Over half, 51%, of the entire Python world is now focused on data science. This isn't just a little trend. It's a massive change that's directly pumping up the value of Python skills, and you guessed it, the salaries we're about to break down.
So let's kick things off with the big picture. Why is everyone, and I mean everyone, looking for Python developers in India right now? It all comes down to some really powerful trends happening in the industry.
Here's the headline number you need to see. A joint report from NASSCOM and LinkedIn found that the demand for Python developers in India shot up by 32% in just the last year. I mean, think about that for a second. That's a massive rate of growth, and it shows just how vital this skill has become.
And when demand goes up like that, you know what follows, right? The money. Salaries jumped by 18%. But here's the kicker. That's not just a big increase, it's the highest increase across all programming jobs. So Python skills aren't just in demand, they're getting more valuable, faster than anything else out there.
All right, so that's the why. Now for the part you've been waiting for. How does all this hype translate into actual paychecks? Let's decode the numbers you can really expect, looking at both experience and where you live.
Okay, so let's break this down. We're looking at CTC, or cost to company, in lakhs per annum. Right out of the gate, freshers are looking at a range of about 3.5 to 7 LPA. But check out that jump to mid-level. That's where things really start to take off, hitting anywhere from 8 to 15 LPA. And for the senior folks, the real experts, we're talking 15 to 30 LPA. And honestly, the sky's the limit after that. Now, let's talk about that entry-level number for a sec. You'll see around 5.5 LPA thrown around as the average starting salary. But, and this is a big but, that's just the baseline. What you can actually make when you're starting out, well, that's a much more interesting story. And here it is. This is the absolute game changer, because here's the secret sauce. Recruiters today value what you can do, not just what you say you can do. If you show up with a GitHub profile that has actual live projects deployed on the cloud, you're not just a typical fresher anymore. You're a builder, and that can boost your starting salary by 30 to 40%, pushing you right up towards that 9 LPA mark from day one.
Of course, where you live matters. A lot. No surprise, Bangalore is leading the charge with the highest salaries. But check out Hyderabad. The pay range might be a little lower, but the demand for developers is just as red hot, thanks to all the fintech and medtech companies popping up there.
In this quote right here, it tells you everything you need to know. This HR head in Hyderabad is saying they don't just want someone who can write a script, they want the whole package. Someone who can build a web app, plug in some AI, and automate the deployment. That's the person they're hunting for, the one they'll pay top dollar to hire.
Okay, so you want to be that high-value developer, right? Let's get into the specific skills, both tech and non-tech, that will actually fatten up your paycheck.
Think of it like this. You need a solid foundation in a web framework like Django. Then, you layer on the cool AI and machine learning stuff with tools like PyTorch. But the magic, the real value, comes when you can take all of that and deploy it yourself using cloud and DevOps tools like AWS and Docker. It's that full package, build, run, deploy, that companies are desperately looking for. Let's put it this way. The takeaway is simple. A broad, full-stack skill set is always going to win. I mean, if you can only do one thing, like basic backend with Flask, you're valuable. But if you can handle the front end, the back end, and the cloud, you're not just valuable, you're essential. And you definitely get paid accordingly.
But listen, code alone won't get you to the top. As you start climbing that career ladder, these so-called soft skills, they become your superpowers. Your ability to solve tough problems, to explain your ideas clearly, and to lead a team, that's what gets you promoted from developer to team lead or architect.
All right, we've talked about what's valuable right now, but what about next year or the year after that? Technology moves fast, so how do you make sure your skills don't get left behind?
Seriously, this is the question you should be obsessed with.
And the trends we're about to talk about, they're not just interesting factoids, they are your roadmap to staying relevant and getting paid well for years to come.
Okay, get this. Probably the biggest performance boost you can get is completely free. Just by upgrading from an older Python to the latest version, you can get a speed increase of over 40% with zero code changes. For a company, that means real money saved on server costs. And when you're the one who understands that, you become way more valuable instantly.
Now, this is a big one to keep on your radar. When Python needs to go into hyperdrive, more and more developers are using Rust to give it a turbo boost. You're seeing it in huge libraries like Polars and Pydantic. You don't have to become a Rust expert overnight, but just knowing this is happening, that puts you ahead of the curve.
And finally, here's the really futuristic stuff that's happening right now, agentic AI. Forget AI just helping you write code. We're talking about AI agents you can give a whole task to, like build me a complete user profile page, and it just goes and does it. This is going to change how we work, and the people who learn how to use these tools are going to be insanely productive.
Okay, that was a lot of information. We've hit the demand, the money, the future. Now, let's boil it all down into a simple, clear action plan that you can start working on like today.
All right, here it is, your 4-step plan. Step 1, build that portfolio with live projects. This is your ticket from a 5 LPA offer to a 9 LPA offer. Seriously. 2, get good at deploying to the cloud. It proves you can ship real software. 3, contribute to open source. It builds your reputation like nothing else. And finally, when you practice for interviews, focus on solving problems you'd actually see on the job. That's what separates the coders from the high-value engineers.
So there you have it. The path to a top-tier Python career in India isn't a mystery anymore. It's about building a broad skill set, proving you can execute, and keeping an eye on what's next. The opportunity out there is absolutely massive. So, the only real question is, are you ready to go out there and build your value?